Perfect. All right. Hello and welcome to Share Your Photos Online. My name is Amy. I am one of the reference librarians here, and I host most of the computer and technology programs. Tonight we have Mike Gershbein coming in to speak on tonight's topic. He has his business, Very Smart People, and I've used him for I think several classes at this point. And I'm going to give it away to him. He's very knowledgeable, and thank you, Mike, for teaching this class tonight.
Okay, thanks. And you're recording this and putting it
Yeah,
online? Is that what's
yeah,
happening
yeah,
for a month? Is that what's
yeah,
going to happen?
yep.
Okay, I forgot what we had said. All right. So thanks for coming. My name is Mike Gershbein. I have my own technology training company, Very Smart People. Word about me teaching. You'll see I'm constantly looking over to the right. That is because I have the chat and the Q&A sitting open there. So if you have anything, you can't speak. I mean, you can speak, but I won't hear you. But if you have anything that you want to ask during this program or anything that you want me to go into deeper, because I'm going to be talking about a couple, I'll be talking about Android, I'll be talking about iPhone, and I'll kind of be skimming through them, but I'm happy to go into anything deeper, but you just need to let me know. And you can do that by going into the chat or going into the Q&A and putting something there, and then I'll go ahead and answer it, and I can go into deeper into whatever you like. And actually, that guidance would be helpful. So I can, if I've got a lot of iPhone users here, I'm happy to go into more about the iPhone. If I have a lot of Android users, happy to go into more about the Android. So do feel free to type that stuff into these rooms. So yeah, I am constantly looking over to my right. I'll be mostly showing you slides and demoing those, so hopefully that won't be too annoying. That's in my notes over there. If anything happens, like I lose internet, please just, it hasn't happened often. It's happened maybe once or twice in the years that I've been doing this. Anyway, stay put. I'll try to hop on as quickly as I can. Hopefully you all hear me talking. If not, you have no idea what I'm saying. If there are any issues, technology wise, just put them in the room. We'll see if it's my end or your end. So nice thing about photo sharing is we do have a lot of options out there available. There are a few key ones. I mean, this world is kind of whittled down to a few key technologies, and depending on what you use for your photos, that'll kind of determine what your options are in order to share your photos. And I talk about sharing, but I'll talk about some other stuff related to using photo software on your phone and mostly your phone, but maybe your computer a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and share my slides. My dog has something to say in the background. Hope you don't mind. Been a while since I've done a Zoom class, so I apologize. This is taking me longer than usual. All right. So main options you've got if you want to be working with photos online, sharing and otherwise are Apple Photos, which is only available on an iPhone. There are ways to share your photos with people who don't have iPhones, but as far as kind of the app software, it is only available on an iPhone versus most of the others, which are available on both iPhone and Android and other places as well. So we've got Google Photos and Microsoft OneDrive, Amazon Photos, Dropbox. I can talk about social networks if anybody's interested in them. Chat is disabled, somebody says. Let me see if I can figure out how to get chat back on, but for the time being, maybe if you want to just put it in the Q&A. Sorry, I'm popping out of there to try to deal with this. Hello, everyone. So reference is saying it. You know what? That reminds me. I'm going to go ahead and put my email in the chat, my name and my email. So I'm glad you asked that, anonymous attendee. Feel free to email me at the email that I just put into the chat, which hopefully you can see, mike@vspchicago.com, and I'm happy to mail you a copy of my presentation. So no handout, but anybody who emails me, I am happy to mail you what I'm showing you right now. Varsha, you're jumping the gun. Let me do my presentation, and maybe that'll answer your questions. Good question, but I haven't even said anything yet. All right. All righty. So, but Varsha, if I don't answer that question, do remind me, because I'm hopping back and forth. So I will be happy to remind it. So whoever put in that thing about the chat, are we okay in the chat now? Can you see the chat? Talk. Okay. Well, if you have any issues with the chat, let us know, and we'll try to sort it out. Otherwise, yeah, we've got the Q&A. Nope. Nope. To what? Chat is disabled. Try it now. Try it now. All right. So things to consider as you're doing this stuff, whether they cost any money, and there is some slight cost considerations going on. Oh, sorry. I feel like this is never going to get running. There we go. Whether these things, how they sync from your phone, from your computer. Okay. If as far as I can tell, chat should be working. If not, just go ahead and put it in the Q&A. But as far as I can tell, it should be working. It works for Varsha and for the other anonymous person. I guess Lou. Anyway, I don't know. So whether these things store the full-size photos or not, how you can access the photos, whether you're getting them through the web, whether you're getting them through your phone or your computer, things like that. At this point, one of the kind of key attractions that's really pretty amazing in a lot of these services are the editing tools. You can do amazing things on your photos right now. How easy are they to use? What's the interface like? And then certainly one of the determining and confusing factors as to whether you're using a Mac, whether you're using a PC, whether you're using an Android phone. And it is a little bit confusing as far as, and sometimes difficult as far as making your choices of which platform to use based on, or which photos to use based on which platform of computer or phone you're using. So here are some of the things that you're looking at as far as what you are going to potentially be using in these photo software. First of all, pretty much all the photo software have shared albums, meaning you can set up a photo album and designate people that are able to access it, designate people that are able to contribute to it, send out a link and various people can get to it. So, one of these things that's really, really useful, you go on vacation with friends and the friend takes a lot of photos and you take a lot of photos, single place to put those photos together, shared albums. So all the platforms tend to have that. Facial recognition is one of these things that's a really pretty amazing feature that's being built into all these things. And Google will even be able to create albums based on faces. So every time you take a picture of a certain person, create an album based on that person that you can then share with that person so that they can all see the photos that are with them. And you can assign names to faces so that you can do a search based on a person's name and then get all the pictures of Lisa all in your search without having to label those actual faces. Same thing with places. You go to Pittsburgh, like I do every once in a while because my son's in college there, and you want to all the pictures from Pittsburgh with that person in them, do a search on Pittsburgh, and your phone recognizes where you took the photo using the metadata, and it brings up all the photos from Pittsburgh. Text recognition is actually pretty, I don't know if it's underappreciated or unknown, but pretty amazing feature that they've rolled out in most of the photo software over the last couple of years, where if you have text in your photo, you can actually search on that text or copy that text. So you know that you have a recipe somewhere and it's for potatoes. You search the word potato and all the pictures that have the word potato in them show up. Or you want to find your old Grateful Dead tickets, search for the word, this is something I do, search for the word Grateful Dead, and it's reading them off the photo and it shows up. So all these things like facial recognition, place recognition, text recognition, it's funny because it's like you still can organize things physically in albums, and people were doing that for a long, long time. Here's an album of this wedding reception. Here's an album of this vacation, things like that. But because all this stuff is either baked into the photo through metadata or using AI or something like that, it's getting to the point where you don't really have to do that because you can just search for Colorado and there's your Colorado photos, things like that. So it's kind of like all the labeling you don't necessarily have to do anymore. So they also have AI for recognition of places and items. I found out about that one on accident, where I was like scanning old photos of trips from the 70s when I went to the Grand Canyon, and AI recognized the Grand Canyon. And it labeled these things as being at the Grand Canyon. I couldn't believe it. This new one is one that we're starting to see, and Google's been advertising it for the last year or so, and Apple's going to be rolling it out in the next version of their operating system in their Photos app, which is this AI removal of objects. So I just did this the other day, where it was a picture of my son playing rugby, and he's kind of running and he's about to block another guy. And then there's a third guy in the photo, and just by kind of circling the guy with my finger in the photo, it removed him and it covered up with grass. And it looks pretty good. It looks, for a free service, it looks pretty good. It hasn't been good on every picture I've tried it on, but in the right pictures, it's pretty darn amazing, and it's only going to get better. Then let's see, sorting by media types, meaning, so you have a lot of photos that are things like you take a picture of of a screenshot, or you take pictures of documents. And it's one thing to have pictures of your family and just kind of go through these pictures of your family and vacation and things like that. It's another thing to have these pictures of things like screenshots in there as well. It's like a different type, it's more of a functional type of thing. So all of these photo apps will allow you to, Google's actually the best for this. Google will allow you to kind of look at screenshots, and they break it down in a few different categories of things that oh my God, it keeps crapping on me. I'm sorry. It keeps on looking at different screen recordings or panoramas, all these types of things. You can look at these individually to find the specific types of things you want. Memories, some of you may have seen these because your photos, if you're using either Google Photos or Apple Photos, where they're going to say, oh, here's a bunch of pictures of you, from 10 years ago, or here's pictures of you from your various skiing trips. And they'll pull together a bunch of pictures, and you can do them kind of as a little slideshow, and they put music on the background. And they're really cool, and it's a great way to kind of explore your old photos and have them kind of reappear in front of you. Duplicate removal is something that Apple only kind of put in fairly recently. Google's had it for a while, and that's where you can go and say, look, it'll tell you which pictures you have duplicates of, and you can say, go ahead and remove all the duplicates or remove individual ones as well to clean up your camera roll. And you can archive photos, so if they're important to you but you don't want them to be part of your regular photos, they go into an archive. Or you can hide them. You have pictures that you don't want people to see, you could say make this a hidden photo, and they'll have to have a password for your phone in order to get it. So all kinds of good features. These software, I think I would say that, in my opinion, Google maybe is leading the way a little bit as far as kind of photo software. And I also will point out, for if any of you are Apple or iPhone users, the photo software that's built into iPhone is changing with the next version of the phone's operating system, which you're due to get pretty much. I think it's available now. You'll probably upgrade your phone in the next month or so. So I haven't really played with it. I don't like to upgrade my phone before the upgrades become available. But the photo software in iPhones may look substantially different over the next month. You may find that it switches. It'll have some nice new features. I've heard mixed things about the photo software on it, but that's just something to keep your eye out for. So I think what I'm going to do, because it's a lot easier to do it on um, a Zoom call, it's hard for me to switch around devices on a Zoom call. So I think I'm just going to walk through this. And then at the end, I can hop onto Google Photos. I can hop onto Apple Photos and work through some specifics rather than just keep hopping between them. In other words, I'll just go through my slides and then we can hop into the phone when I'm done. So the way that Apple Photos works, if you have photos on your phone and you have iCloud turned on all of your devices, all of your photos are synced across all your devices, meaning that any changes that you make to a photo on one device, those changes will be made on all the various devices that you've got. You delete a photo from your phone, it's deleted from your computer and deleted from your iPad. There are ways to get around this that some people will do, but that is essentially how the world works as far as Apple. You delete something from one device, gone from all devices. Any changes you make are synced across all devices. They stay in sync. So you can't really, if you're using iCloud for photos, you can't really delete photos off your phone to clean it off and expect them to be on your computer. Everything's staying in sync. Once again, there are ways around that, but we won't really get into that today. Great photo editing built into your photos as well. I mean, if you haven't played with the photo editing on these devices, everything from like cropping and cleaning up blemishes and changing perspective and brightness and all these types of things on all these softwares, it's gotten amazing. Now, if you are a Windows user, you may not know that you can have your photos synced to your Windows computer. It's not just a Mac thing. So you do need to get a separate piece of software for a Windows computer. It's called iCloud for Windows. You turn that on, sign into iCloud, and then any photos that you take on your phone will show up on your computer and vice versa. One reason why I like to sync to a computer, besides just having all my photos on a computer, is that while iCloud serves as backing up for your photos, I also like to put them on a hard drive and back up a hard drive that has those photos as well. So I like to sync them to a computer. You know, the two main purposes of iCloud when it comes to something like photos is backing up your computers to the cloud so that if anything happens to your phone, then you can just sign into your Apple account on another device and all your photos are there because they're sitting in the cloud, but also syncing your photos between devices. So all your photos on your phone, all your photos on your iPad, all your photos on your computer. Both really useful things to consider, with any of these services, backing up and syncing across devices. Now, in Apple Photos, you do have an option to share individual photos through instant messages to people, through email, through what's called AirDrop, which is if somebody in your contacts is near you, basically you're within 10 feet of each other, I don't know the exact distance, you can send a person an AirDrop photo. And another way, so that's individual photos or small groups of photos. If you have like 3 photos, you can share them that way. But Apple also offers a shared album and a shared library feature. So shared albums allow you to set up a photo album. And this is an example of this is, once again, you went on vacation with somebody else and you want to put all your photos together in one album. Or you went on vacation, you have 30 photos and you want your family to see them. So you put them in an album and you create it as a shared album and you give those 10 family members access to it. So shared albums are built in there as a feature. You certainly have an option just to set up regular albums, which are albums where you stick a bunch of photos in them and, it's for birthday or holiday or whatever. But the shared library or the shared albums allows you to just automatically share with other people. And if you add other photos to that shared album, those people will get notified. They can look at the new photos. They can potentially add photos to that album. Now, the way shared albums work on Apple is that if somebody does not have an iPhone, then you can send them a link to the shared album, and they can get to the shared album through that link through the internet, and it'll bring them to a website. Whereas if they have an iPhone and they're a member of that shared album, then they can actually just use that Photos app on their iPhone in order to access it. But yeah, the fact that somebody doesn't have an iPhone doesn't mean that they cannot access shared albums. They just have to do it not through the app. They have to go through a link to a website. Now, shared libraries is something that's a very useful feature that came out maybe a year ago. And that's if you have a family plan, family account, where you can designate various people who are members of your family. And it does a lot of features, like you can share iCloud space with these people. But one nice thing it does also is you can have a shared library with another person that is a member of your family. Meaning, so for years, you've been taking photos and your spouse has been taking photos, and you have two separate libraries, photo libraries, and you've been doing a lot of stuff together. So you went on vacation to Hawaii, and you've got your pictures in your library. They have their pictures in their library. You can designate that you want to have a shared library, and then all of your photos will be thrown together, and it's kind of treated as one library. So that's kind of a useful feature. That's specifically, that's going to be if you have a spouse or a child and you want all your photos together. You're not going to be doing that with most people. For kind of friends and vacations and things like that, you'll want to do an individual shared album, because shared library is everything. Versus, you can do a little bit of, it doesn't have to be everything, but for the most part, it's everything. Whereas with shared albums, it's more kind of pick and choose. I already said the next thing. So as far as pricing goes with this, it's all part of your iCloud subscription. People get iCloud free for up to 5 gigabytes. And then beyond that, Apple, once you start kind of running up that limit, Apple's going to start charging you at 99 cents up to 50 gigabytes. Although once again, if you have a family plan, you can have multiple people share that 50 gigabytes of data for the photo library and everything like that. So, and then it increases at other tiers as well. Once you start backing up your photos, I think you'll find that probably you'll move beyond the free plan of Apple. So, Varsha's asking, is your library your entire camera roll? Yeah, your library is essentially the same thing as a camera roll. It's all your photos. They're essentially similar terms. Now, my intention, just because it's going to be easier, you can ask me other questions about Apple right now. I'll look at the room for a second. But then what I think I'll do is I'll move on to Google, and then kind of towards the end, I can hop into the app and show you some more specific things. And Varsha, I'll answer your other question probably after the next slide about Apple and Google Photos. So Google Photos, it's tempting to say that, this is the Android version of Apple Photos, except for the fact that Google Photos is also available for Apple users. So there are some potential reasons for you to consider using Google Photos. It's another place to back up your photos besides Apple Photos. It is free for up to 15 gigabytes of data between your photos, Google Docs, if you use that product, and Gmail. So once those three start adding up to 15 gigabytes, then they start charging you $1.99 a month for up to 100 gigabytes, which is a huge amount. Google Photos also does a lot of cool kind of editing stuff. So, if you want kind of another place to play with your photos, you can download Google Photos to an iPhone. But certainly it's one thing to consider as your main photos on an Android phone. So a lot of the way these Android phones work is they come with a gallery app on the Android phone, which I'm not a big fan of. It's kind of a very basic place to store your photos on your Android phone. So most Android phones, because the software is created by Google, they'll also come with Google Photos. And if they don't, you can download it from the App Store. iPhone probably won't come with Google Photos installed, but you can also go to the App Store for Apple and download Google Photos. On an Android phone, you've got the Play Store is what it's called, and if you don't have Google Photos. But most of your Android phones, you'll find that Google Photos are there. Now, one nice thing about all of these apps is that you can use multiple ones at once. It's not going to go ahead and copy your photos twice, so it's not going to use up twice as much space. So if you like, you have an Android phone and you've been using that built-in gallery app, maybe you want to try Google Photos, launch Google Photos, try that as well. And maybe you'll find you like that more, but there's no reason, and you can keep using that and maybe go back to the gallery if you want. But the point is they can both coexist. If you have an iPhone, you can have Google Photos and Apple Photos on it and try them both. They can both coexist, and they're all just looking at one place. Now, I will say there are some complications, and Varsha in the Q&A kind of gets to one of them, of using the Google Photos app on your iPhone. With an iPhone and the built-in Photos app, everything is pretty seamless. Becomes a little bit trickier with the Google Photos app, but we can kind of maybe talk about that a little bit more. So if you have Google Photos, your photos on your phone, as long as you turn it on, and when you go into the Google Photos app, it will ask you whether you want to turn on backup. And in that case, your photos will back up to the cloud, back up to Google Photos, and will be stored there as an online place to back up. This can also happen from your computer. So if you put photos on your computer and you want them to be part of your Google library, there is a product that's called Google Drive, and you download that from, I think it's like drive.google.com. You can Google it. Download that to your computer and say you want your photos on your computer backed up to Google Photos. And then all the photos on your computer will be backed up to Google Photos in the cloud. And then at that point, they will also appear on your phone. So if you do have a lot of photos on your computer that you want mingled with your Google Photos, then you can do that. It doesn't back up the opposite way like Apple does, where photos from your phone will automatically appear on your computer. That's just not how it works. And then they have an option for cloud only, which means that if your phone is getting really full because of photos, you can say, well, just put these photos in the cloud, and I don't want them clogging up my phone. I'm always a little bit nervous about that. I like it to also have them on my phone, but that is an option for you. Great photo editing. So Google Photos, I don't think they have on all the phones yet where you can select object removal, basically select an object and remove it from the photos. You may have to be a subscriber to their 100 gigabyte plan, beyond that free 50 gigabytes, or a Pixel phone user. The Pixel phones are the ones manufactured by Google, but I think it will be rolling out more and more to various people. But they have great photo editing, despite the fact that you may not get the object removal, which you may get. You can look on your phone and try it. But, amazing photo editing, all the kind of stuff I mentioned for that, Apple Photos as well. And once again, works on all phones, works on all computers, not an Android specific thing. Similar to Apple, you can share individual photos if you want through messages, through mail, but they also have this option to share photos or albums through the app or website link. So if you have a bunch of friends and family who use the Photos app, whether they're iPhone users or Android users, you can say through the app, well, I want these people to have access to this album, in which case the album will show up on their Google Photos app. Or similar to what I was saying with Apple Photos, you can send out a link to a particular website that will list all those photos as well if they're not using Google Photos. So if they're an iPhone user, they could download the Google Photos app. Or if they're on a computer, you could send them a link to the website and they can go there and see the stuff. So, the way the world works, in a perfect world, you are going to have a bunch of friends who are all using Google Photos and you are all synced up, or you're an iPhone user and you're a bunch of people using Apple Photos and it's all kind of automated. We don't live in a perfect world. We live in a world where people are using different technologies. So they do give you the options, even if people aren't using that app, to access the items through links. They have what's called partner sharing, in which case you can, similar type of thing to that shared library on Apple Photos, where you pick somebody and then either all your photos are mingled together, or you have various options for just limiting which photos are mingled together, but it give you a single library of photos. So I already mentioned the pricing. It's a pretty good amount, but I think what most people are seeing at this point is if you've been using Google for 10 years for all your email and things like that, you may be running up to that 15 gigabyte limit, and you'll have to decide whether you want to start paying $1.99 a month for a lot more storage. And they give you a couple other features available with that. They also have a print store, so you can print albums, things like that. Now, Varsha in the Q&A kind of got into one of the challenges, which is keeping your photo libraries in sync. And like I said, you can use different photo libraries to access items. What stays in sync can be a little bit tricky, meaning, for example, if you delete a photo from Apple Photos, typically it will stay on your Google Photos, even though you deleted it from your Apple Photos, because what happened is Google moved it to the cloud. So you do lose some syncing between those two, and it's easy for them to come to not stay in sync. So you'll find if you're an iPhone user that you've got potentially a lot more photos in your Google Photos because the changes that you made did not sync over there, or the edits that you made on Apple Photos did not sync over there. On the other hand, if you're doing all your editing in Google Photos, even if you're an iPhone user, everything you're doing through Google Photos is syncing on Google. So it is a little bit of a tricky world. My feeling is it's best to try to use Apple Photos on an iPhone, but I also use Google Photos on my iPhone just because I like to stay on top of it. And, for certain Android people, it makes sense. And it's just another place to use my photos. But yeah, you lose a little bit of the syncing as far as the edits, those types of things. Unfortunately, that does not work perfect. Does that answer your question, Varsha? I don't know why it keeps kicking me out of there. Okay. So that's Google and Apple, obviously two big ones. One more to consider, though, is that Microsoft has its own photo software. So if any of you use OneDrive on your computer, then OneDrive also will back up your photos. So OneDrive is the cloud backup similar to iCloud, cloud backup for Microsoft Windows. It comes with Windows 10 and Windows 11, and you need to go and turn on OneDrive and say you want to back up your photos, and you can back up other stuff like documents and things like that. But once you back up your photos from OneDrive, then any photos on your computer are backed up to the cloud. You can get the OneDrive app for your phone, and that's another way of accessing those photos and backing up your photos through the OneDrive app. It's kind of I guess if you consider Apple and Google to be the two kind of first place winners, and Microsoft Photos is kind of a close second place. The idea being that if you're a OneDrive user, you're backing up your photos, why not use OneDrive? Why not use OneDrive as a place to access your photos as well from your phone? So you can, once again, download OneDrive to your phone if you use a Windows 10 or 11 machine and access your photos that way. It does have photo editing, works with all phones in your computers. You can do all the sharing, like on the other ones, individual photos or share photos or albums through OneDrive. You're paying for OneDrive, which is all your cloud storage from your Windows computer. And similar to Apple, they give 5 gigabytes of storage for free. And then they have this nice big jump to 100 gigabytes of storage for $199 per month. I have to say that I don't particularly like the photo software or the Microsoft Photo software that is on your computer, that's on a Windows machine. I find it kind of clunky. But so, I'm not necessarily nuts about editing it. I haven't really used the app a whole lot for editing photos, but another place to back up your photos, especially if you're paying for it. Oh yeah, and also if you have Office 365, which is a subscription service for Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel, things like that, they give you a terabyte of storage for free, which is a huge amount of storage. So if you're looking for another place to back up your photos from your computer and you're already paying for this extra storage with Office 365, then why not turn it on, have all your photos on your computer back up to the cloud, and it's another place to do it. So I'm iffy on it. There are things I like about it. Things my preferences are obviously Google and Apple, but as long as you're paying for it, it's a decent place to back up your photos, potentially share. Another one that's kind of one of these ones that's there as an option for you. I have to say, I've used it, and I've had one person who's kind of used it with me. It's not huge, but it's there for you if you are an Amazon Prime subscriber. So those of you who use Amazon Prime, it's whatever, $130 around for a year, and they give you a bunch of free stuff with it. And I mean, besides free shipping from Amazon, and one of the products they give you is Amazon Photos, and same type of thing where you can automatically back up all your photos from your smartphone, back up all your photos from your computer, and it's just another place to back up your stuff, and it's unlimited storage. I'd say it's for free, but it's included with Amazon Prime. Unlimited storage for photos. One catch, that catch being that it's only 5 GB of video storage. So all those videos you're taking with your phone, it's going to cut them off at a certain point, and you'll have to store them somewhere else. But you're looking for another place to back up your photos and potentially share. They let you have what are called family vaults, where if you have an Amazon Prime subscription, you can give your spouse access and you can give your kids access, and they can all back up their photos in their own libraries as well. And then they have all the kind of sharing options as well. And one nice feature about them is Amazon has a lot of products for printing out photos and books if you want an actual print one. So once again, this is maybe a third place one behind the previous three. But if you're paying for Amazon Prime, you download the app to your phone, turn it on, back up all your photos to Amazon. It's just another place where your photos are safely backed up. Dropbox, I always mention it in these types of classes. Dropbox is an oldie. I don't know. I'd say oldie but goodie. I don't know how good it is, but it is an oldie. The thing about Dropbox is that it's expensive. So you get 2 GB of storage for free. If you happen to be paying for a Dropbox account because of work or for whatever reason, you can say back up all my photos. I don't know that I would go ahead and pay for it because unless you're using it other places as well. But it is another option for you to back up this stuff. It's just an expensive option. Some of the other things that are out there that I will mention are Flickr, which used to be an amazing product. Still kind of nice, but he really was leading the way years ago, and then Yahoo bought it and kind of trashed it. But Flickr, they allow you to upload up to 1,000 photos. And Flickr has a nice interface. It's a nice sharing feature. A lot of professionals use it. But the big restriction is it's only 1,000 photos. Why would you want to use it? It's nice for kind of events, like if you have a wedding or whatever event, you can put up the 500 pictures from the wedding, send all 100 people the link to it, and then they can go there and check it out. It's a nice interface and everything like that. I wouldn't use it for regular, I don't know, you can use it for regular backup. Unless you can pay for more storage, but it's a nice option out there for individual events. Tripcast is a nice app for if you take a vacation, you can let people subscribe to your vacation album, and then they'll be able to, you can put notes next to the pictures and they can add on their questions and things like that. And it's just kind of like an online diary, online journal of the vacation that you took specifically for photos. Shutterfly and Snapfish aren't great for backing up or anything like that, but if you're looking for products, mugs and calendars and that type of stuff, you can upload photos there and get those products from them. If you're dying for me to tell you anything about Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, or Snapchat, put it in the room. I throw up the slide in case anybody wants to know about them. Facebook, it's a decent way to share photos from an event, but everybody has to have access to Facebook in order to do it. That being said, you can set up albums in Facebook, and you can designate other people to contribute to those albums as well. So if you and your 9 closest friends just took a girl trip and you set up a photo album on Facebook, and you're the 10 that you want to see it, not a bad option for you. Instagram, not really individual photos showing kind of your life, not really a backup or I guess it's a sharing thing. Pinterest is more of kind of sharing informational things, hobbies and that type of stuff. And we won't talk about Snapchat. Another thing to consider when it comes to kind of how you handle your photos is that, like I was saying, yeah, all these services will back up your photos to the cloud, but I like also backing them up to a hard drive. I like to know that I've got a hard drive in my home with all my photos. I'm assuming nothing is going to happen to my photos in Apple's cloud. That being said, I have heard horror stories about people losing photos or photo libraries getting corrupted, things like that in the cloud. So I like the idea that I've got it in a physical hard drive as well on my computer, backed up to a physical hard drive, or even another cloud service that's beyond kind of the iPhoto one. So if you have a Mac, you can consider turning on Time Machine, which is a constant backup of everything on your computer, all the documents, including your photos. And another nice thing, by the way, is that if you deleted a photo and it's a year later and you want to hop back to it, you can go into Time Machine, go back a year and recover that photo as well. Windows 10, Windows 11 computers, they have what's called file history. The way both of these work is you go and you buy a hard drive, maybe $50 to get a 1 terabyte hard drive, something like that. Plug it into your computer. Time Machine, they give you an option like in the top right hand corner, Windows 10, Windows 11, search your computer for file history. They made it harder to find in Windows 11, but it's there. Windows 10, it's a little more visible. But you go ahead and you say, turn on file history or turn on Time Machine. And they'll say, do you want to use that hard drive to back up your stuff? And you say yes. And then all your stuff is constantly backed up from now on. And you don't have to do anything. You don't have to say that you want to back up your photos. It's just an ongoing thing. So in that case, you have them backed up to a hard drive. I do like the idea of having them both to a hard drive and to the cloud, because hard drives go bad. And you got flexibility with the cloud, but it is nice to use that stuff. Cloud services are out there also as kind of competitors for just these photo cloud services. Backblaze, Carbonite, these things will back up everything on your computer to the cloud. Lou, I haven't used PhotoMine in a while. I have to tell you that. There's a lot of photo apps out there. This is a few examples. Photoshop Express is much more than Photoshop. Sorry. I shouldn't say it's much more than Photoshop, much different than Photoshop, and is free to use. Snapseed, Visco. PhotoScan is interesting in that it's like a scanning software, so that if you have old photos that you want to get into your photo library, you take pictures. Basically, it has to take like 4 pictures of a photo, and it takes the 4 best. It takes the 4 and kind of combines them together into one single photo and saves it as a PDF. It's a little bit time consuming, but it makes it, and it takes away the glare. If your photo is under kind of a piece of plastic, there's a lot of the software out there that will do better photo editing and put stuff in frames and let you put text on them and remove blemishes and zits and you name it, change your hair color. These things are all out there for you to play with. But last I looked, these were kind of the first 3 were a few of the big ones that offer free photo editing. So as far as kind of covering the main ground, that's what I've got. I've got a couple of you in the room. Let me know what you'd like me to go in and demonstrate, so that I don't just talk about a bunch of stuff that you're not interested in. Put it in the chat room or the Q&A. I'm bringing up my iPhone if you want to. There's my iPhone. You have Amazon Photos app on your iPhone. So you can have all of these back up at once. It's one of the nice things about it is, like in my case, I'm really, I have years and years. I've whatever 20, 30,000 photos and videos. So I'm really anal about backing up. So I have it backing up to 4 different places. Yeah, you download the Amazon, it doesn't remove them from your phone. So you turn on Amazon Photos, you turn on Apple Photos, you turn on Google Photos. backs them up to all of those places. Then, if that's what you want to do, yeah, that's what you can do. In my case, I've had all three on at one point. I think I turned off Amazon Photos, and not that long ago, I turned off Google Photos, but I might turn Google Photos back on. I turned off Google Photos because I was getting near the free limit, but then I decided to pay. So now I've got a much bigger kind of limit for Google Photos, so I might as well back it up to Google Photos and Apple Photos. So yes, it's one of the things I like about all these Photos apps is, you can download them all and then pick and choose between them, but you don't have to like commit to one. Just use them all. And so if there's anything in particular you want me to demo in any of these apps, go ahead. I can show you it in whatever Photos app you want. I don't want to put you on the hook, but I really also want to specifically speak about things that you're interested in. Google Photos. Here's my Amazon Photos app. I'm going to show you Google Photos on an iPhone. You know what? Yeah, I'll show you on an iPhone. I've also got an Android phone here, but so Google Photos. In all these photos software, you have a library which has all of your photos in it. And here's my photo library. As of right now, it is exactly the same. So this is on an iPhone, so I also have Apple Photos, but it's exactly the same photo library. I was just on vacation visiting my son in Pittsburgh. There he is, as of a few days ago, placing a drink for me. So in this library, you've got stuff at the top, which is one of the nice things that Google does is kind of prompt you for things like revisit particular moments. So there's a little photo album made of a trip to France. Oh, good memory. I'll go ahead and tap on that, and I have it muted. Let's see if I don't know if you can hear it doesn't matter if you can hear the music. It's playing music, showing highlights of my trip to France, things like that, way at the top, or what happened 10 years ago, all that type of stuff. So I have individual photos. Here is, once again, lovely photo of my son, and you'll see a bunch of things down on the bottom. Share is that nice shortcut for sharing individual photos. So if I tap that share button, then it will give me a choice. Maybe I want this beautiful photo of me eating as well. And it gives me shortcuts to do things like send it to individual people or share to, it says at the bottom. And I can hit that and say, oh, I want to send it through email, I want to send it through messages, any of those type of things. Just a quick and easy way to, we don't want to see that over and over. Let's go back to that. Then next to it is obviously the edit button. One thing that's worth checking out when you go into the edit button is this magic eraser feature, which is that new AI feature that will be available for, hey, let's do this. This will be fun. So I'm going to go ahead and tap on magic eraser because I love that picture of my son, but I don't want the picture of, and they're actually suggesting things. Hey, let's do this. Let's follow its suggestions. It's suggesting I erase a couple people in the background. I'm going to go ahead and erase them. Wow, that was actually pretty good. That was better than I thought it would be. So there's two people that were in the background now gone, or I can go ahead and I'll choose his iPhone in the front because I don't want to see his iPhone and circle it. And now it's gone. And now there's just the table. So this stuff is pretty cool. If you guys have it as options on your Google Photos, it's pretty mind blowing. And then you can always reset it and go back to how it was. So, and then there's other kind of basic editing stuff, cropping and brightness and all that type of stuff. Lens is where they're starting to use things like AI so that if you have, let's say you have a picture of an insect, this is actually very useful. It's kind of beyond this class, but I'll have a picture of a flower in my garden, for example, and I will take a picture of it, and then Lens will search the internet and identify what that flower is by looking through other photos that are out there. And then, of course, there's delete. Then at the top right-hand corner, there are options for doing things like adding it to an album and things like that. So that's at an individual photo level. But if I wanted to, I could also, at the top of the screen, there is a plus symbol, and that's what will let me create albums. So I'm going to hit the little plus symbol, and I'm going to create an album, among other stuff, collages and highlights, things like that. But I'm going to go ahead and create an album. As they say here, you can select create an album that has a specific face in it so that it's constantly updated. And then I'm going to go ahead and select photos, select those 5 photos. I'll say add them to this album. And then there's an option at the top of the album that I can give it, I'll give it a title. I'll call it Pittsburgh. And then at the top of the album, it gives me an option to share, and I can go ahead, hit that share button, and then send people a link to the album, and then anyone who has that link can then access it. Or I can designate specific people, and that album will show up in their pictures. So easy to share albums or individual ones. How do you get the photos on Google Photos? It's as simple as getting the Google Photos app to your phone. So as soon as you put the Google Photos app on your phone, it's going to find all the photos on your phone and bring them in. I shouldn't say bring them into, but you'll see them on your Google Photos app. So if you have an Android phone, chances are Google Photos is already on your phone, and you just need to find it and open it, and you may find your photos in there. If you have an iPhone, you may have to download that from the App Store, but it will find all those photos, bring it in there. And they'll also give you other options as well, as far as like, do you want to back up your photos? In this case, I'm not backing up my photos. I'm just using the app itself. If you turn on backup photos, they'll tell you if you have enough space or if you're going to have to start paying for it. I'll probably turn on backup photos at some point on this. What else did I want to tell you about? I don't think I wanted to tell you. Oh, yeah. Well, I'll point out that if you go down to collections on the bottom right-hand corner, that's where you could do things like see specific faces. So if I want to see all the photos with my son in them, I can tap on his face, and I'll tap on his face again. And you can say that, give somebody a name. Okay, that's having me here. So these are all photos that have my son's face on them. It's pretty amazing. I mean, some of these are pretty distant photos. If you tap on this one, there he is way in the distance, but I was able to pick out his face. So I said what his name is, and now I can search my photos for his name, or maybe I'll find photos with him and my wife. So that's one of these kind of amazing things in all these photo software, where you no longer have to just classify. You can find things by location. Earlier I'd mentioned by types of documents, things like that, that's sorting it. So that's all out there. So did I answer everything you need? Did I go into too much detail about Google Photos? I mean, it sounds like, you have the basic question about how to get your photos on Google Photos. Hopefully that's been answered. The answer is you get the Google Photos app, launch it, and then your photos, you'll find them on Google Photos. Then as to whether you're backing them up to the cloud or not, you would have to turn on backup, and that's a separate thing. And that will, I recommend you do it. I think it's a good idea to back up your photos to the cloud, but that's assuming that you have enough space. Perfectly answered. Oh, it doesn't get much better than that. I could yap on and on if you're interested. What else would you like to see? What else would you like to talk about? If anything, you're ready, go get a drink. You do that too. Just let me know. Oh, by the way, and actually, if you want to speak, I can actually let you speak as well. So just raise your hand. Okay, well, there we go. Any other questions? I guess we're going to be wrapping it up with that.
Does anyone have any other questions or anything? I'm gonna give another second, but In the meantime, thank you. I actually learned new things. I didn't know about the AI and the Google Photos because I've just been in my iPhone and I use iCloud. So
Well,
I'm
and
gonna
and
put
once
it
again,
on.
yeah, and it's going to be on Apple Photos very soon too.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool to play with it in Google Photos. I have to say, it's pretty neat. Let me just before I bail out, let me just show you. Let's see if I have them both here. My photo edit. Oh, here we go. So this is what I was talking about. So sorry, it's moving because it's an animated, Apple photo. But I edited out the guy. Yeah, it looks kind of blurry right there, but there was a guy standing there. You can kind of see him right there for a second, and I edited him out using that magic eraser. Pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. And
Um,
and the lens is very cool too. The identifying flowers or bugs or trees or whatever using the lens. That's another kind of amazing feature that it's also built into Apple camera. More of a camera thing than a photos. Well, you can use it with the photos too.
yeah, no, that's awesome because I can't tell you how many times I've had people call and ask about being able to identify flowers and by looking
Yeah.
at them, and I'm like, I don't know. So that's super useful. And thank you again, like so much for teaching this class. I learned things and I'm pretty fairly tech savvy. So I hope everybody who attended had a great time and just want to thank you and have a good night if there's no more
Yep.
questions.
Thanks for coming, everybody. Appreciate it.